Thank you so much for joining us. Sweden, greetings over there. Belfast, Austria. We're joining from Slovakia, at least some of us. So Austria, hello neighbors. Thank you so much for being with us. Canada is getting to the lead as well. Brilliant. So we've got a really international crowd over here, and almost 150 people who just joined us today. Again, we've got about 80 participants participating so far. So the rest of you, another half, we encourage you to do that as well, because we've got a couple of polls ready for you. So slido.com and enter the hashtag engage, or just scan the QR code. And I think it's time for us to officially kick things off, because it's 2 minutes past the advertised time. And so let me just officially welcome you to the webinar on engaging virtual presentations. Thank you so much once again for joining us wherever you are based. My name is Juraj Holub, and I'm the Chief Meeting Designer at Slido, helping our clients deliver more engaging presentations and meetings. And today I will be guiding you through the next 60 minutes. And we will be talking about today mainly about the new integrations. But that's not all, because tool is just a tool if not used with a skill. So we want to share a few tips that we picked along the way on how to get the most out of these integration and deliver engaging presentations. So, but before we actually get there, let's take a look at where we are right now. We can say a lot of things about 2020, but one thing that definitely stands out is that the 2020 is the year of virtual meetings. And the work has undergone an unprecedented transformation, whether it's meeting our colleagues in a virtual setup for the all hands meetings instead of meeting them face to face, or just balancing the work-life balance between taking care of our pets and kids with running some of the projects, or just making the most out of our one-on-one meetings, as Andrew over here did with our colleague Marek. And actually, Andrew is also the musician and the brain behind the first song that you heard when you were joining. So he's got many talents, and he's going to show another few of those in about a second. So the point here is that we've all transformed and adapted, and so did we as a company. And we are grateful that the number of customers actually continue to grow, and we can be here for you to navigate this new normal. And after years of trying, in mid-September, we actually reached the milestone of 1 million events that used Slido, and want to say a huge thank you for all of you who have been on the journey with us. And this growth has been mainly driven by smaller meetings, and in particular by the usage of live polls, which has grown by about 300%. And if you think about it, it actually makes sense, because in this virtual setup where we can't really read the cues, we need and we long for the feedback more than ever before. And we do understand that as a company, actually we need to, and if we want to make these meetings more interactive, we have to make the use of Slido as simple as possible. And we need to be where you actually work. So today we are using the PowerPoint integration right now. So we just added a few polls to the slides that activate automatically, and we can really fully deliver on we can fully focus on the delivery. And we want to show you more about how to do that. But tonight, it's not going to be only about the PowerPoint integration. We also want to show you a little bit more about the integration that went out of the oven just recently, and that's the Microsoft Teams integration. But before, again, like we move forward, we want to turn the attention over to you, and we want to learn a little bit more about your experience with Slido. How skilled are you? How much have you been using it recently? What is the role of Slido for your work, for your meetings? Please let us know in this poll. So how often do you use Slido as a presenter? I use it occasionally. I've never used it before, but excited to try it. I used it only as a participant. So we can see that over 60% of you are using it occasionally. Cool, that's great that's good to hear. Some of you, about 13%, used it only as a participant. So hopefully you're going to find a few tips that will motivate you to try it also as a presenter. And good news is that 11% of you, or yes, 12% currently is using it for every single presentation. So we've got a range of people joining this webinar. So hopefully you are going to find the new tricks on how to use it better and more often. All right, one more question before I turn to my colleagues. What is your typical Slido use case? What do you use Slido for mainly? Please let us know. This is a word cloud. So webinar, town halls, all hands, trainings, polls, education, webinars are in the lead. Perfect. Seminars, training, Q&A, team meeting, cool, training. So it more or less correlates with also the rise of the smaller meetings that we have seen that been pushing the overall number of events, onboarding, virtual meeting, training courses. Brilliant. And we've got almost 200 people, by the way, on this webinar. So thank you so much for joining us. More than 50% of you. Perfect. So this is a great representation of all the use cases that you've been using Slido for in the past few months. And without further ado, let me just tell you more about my colleagues that will be telling you all about the integration and sharing more tips. Andrew, as I said, he's an amazing musician, but also an expert on the PowerPoint integration. So he's going to guide you through that. And Nadia, working with our key clients, picking up some brilliant engagement tips that she's going to share in about a second. And special guests tonight, Martin and Martin, two of our product managers that stand beyond these integrations, are joining you for the Q&A session at the very end. So send some tough questions for them, because there's no one better who could address your questions than these two gentlemen. All right, Nadi, over to you.
Yes. So thank you so much, Uri. You have probably all heard the stats that over 30 million PowerPoint presentations are run every single day. Now, this statistics is actually from a few years back, so I would be very curious to see how many PowerPoint presentations are creating in these virtual times. So it really comes as no surprise that the PowerPoint integration has been our top requested feature for a very long time. And today we're really excited to share with you that it's out, and we will guide you through how to set it up step by step in a few moments. And before we do that, again, I want to turn the attention back to you. Please let us know, what operating systems do you use? Are you a Windows user? Do we have Mac users? Or perhaps some Crow OS or Linux user? Or is it something else? So 53 people voted. For those who joined later on, you can either scan the QR code on the left or go to slido.com. The hashtag is engage. So please let us know. It seems like Windows users are winning very heavily, which is funny because most of us at Slido are actually Mac users. So it's great to see the split, 22% Mac, and then we have Chrome and Linux and other as well. Well, thank you so much. And the good news for the over 70% of you is that the PowerPoint integration currently works on Windows. It supports Windows 7 and higher, as well as PowerPoint 2010 and higher. But Mac users, stay tuned, because we also have options for you. And for now, I'm going to give the word back to Andrew, who is joining us from Northern Ireland, to share how to run PowerPoint step by step. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Nadia. Thank you. So it's good to see that some people are joining from Belfast and Dublin, not too far from me, but of course, welcome to everyone. So I'm going to have a little deep dive into our Slido for PowerPoint integration. So just to get started, of course, you can install the add-in from our website, slido.com/PowerPoint, install it on your Windows computer, and then you're good to go. So I'm going to show you firsthand how this works. So let's just go behind the scenes. I'm going to take you into the presentation. And once you actually install the Slido add-in, you'll see it here on your PowerPoint home bar, and you'll see this little Slido button. So of course, like Uri said at the beginning, we've been using the Slido for PowerPoint integration throughout this webinar. So any polls that you've seen that have popped up, we've kind of seamlessly put into the presentation. And I'm going to show you how you can do that live. So this is the event that we're using with the code ENGAGE that you've all already joined. And first of all, let's keep it simple. We'll add an engagement point. We're going to add some Q&A. So you can see here, these are all our options for what we can add into our presentation. If I just add a Q&A slide, it pops into the left-hand side here, and we're going to give you a chance to ask some questions after we give you this little presentation. So I'm just going to pop that Q&A slide into there, and it really is as simple as that. You can see here in the Slido sidebar that the questions that you guys have already put in there are showing up, and once we get to this slide when we're presenting, you will see the questions and we'll be able to address those live. So then if we go back and add another interaction, we have many polls throughout the presentation already. Of course, we want to show you how you can do that. So again, it's very, very simple. We're trying to keep it very intuitive for you. So if we go to add a live poll, we get our options of the 4 poll text we have, or a quiz, or a survey. So let's go for a simple open text poll. And we don't know everything. So in this webinar, we want to know some tips from you as well. So we're going to ask you, how do you engage your audiences? So let's keep that as an open text. I'll submit multiple answers and we'll save that. And then we see it copies over into the slides over here. And we're just going to slide that into the right location, which is right after we show you our interaction tips. So let's just put that into the right place. And then, of course, when we come to that slide, it will automatically activate and you'll be able to put in your votes. So basically the way that it works is people still need to join the Slido event like you've done today from their phones or their other devices. And once they do that, they're in, they can send in their questions and they can vote on the polls. And these will automatically come up whenever you insert them and are presenting your presentation. So we're going to go back into our PowerPoint here and take it back to where we were. And that was a little glimpse of how it works. So I hope that made sense. And if there are any questions, then please let us know in the Slido Q&A. So as Nadia was saying earlier, the PowerPoint integration is available currently for Windows users, but we do have options if you are a Mac user or you don't use PowerPoint. We have our Slido for Google Slides integration. So it works in much the same way. You can download this add-on and the extension for your Google Slides, and here is the details to get it from our website. And basically, as you can see, it will give you the Slido for Google Slides, and you will see the sidebar. You can add the interactions in much the same way. And when you're presenting, they will show up live. So now we come to our Q&A. So we're going to address some of the questions that you have in terms of our integrations.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew, for giving us a quick glimpse on both of the integrations. And yes, let's take one question that is associated with a PowerPoint and then keep the rest for the final Q&A. So when does the Teams and PowerPoint integrations going to take place?
Great. So we only have one question. I'm not even sure if I'm the expert to answer this, but we already have our PowerPoint integration, which is available for you to download. And we have our colleague Martin available on the call, and he's going to be showing you all about the Teams integration and how that works. So hopefully when he shows you that, that will be a good answer to your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew. And maybe just like to add to that, both of the integrations are already out, and you can download them or add them to your Microsoft account from the landing pages on slido.com, which we are going to share once again. And there comes another one, Andrew, just a quick one. Does the download for PowerPoint work in Microsoft Office 365 or on downloaded version?
So they'll need to download the integration. It should work with PowerPoint 2010 and upwards. So that should be all you need to run it. Yeah, as far as I'm aware.
Perfect. And just the last one, a very quick one. Do I need to download the integration?
Yeah, so as we showed, you can download it from the Slido website. It's slido.com/PowerPoint, and you just download and install it, and then it will be available for you within your PowerPoint.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you so much for your questions. They are not going anywhere. They are still staying at Slido. We're going to take a look at the most upvoted questions towards the end of this webinar. But now it's time for us to share a few interaction tips on how to put these integrations into practice. And with that, over to you, Nadi.
Yes, thank you so much, Juraj. So again, we would love to turn to you when it comes to interaction. We have a quick poll. And as you all know, we're not here only to talk about the tech stuff. We're also here to share our best practices and tips. And right now, I would love to ask you, think about the moment when you were attending a webinar or a team meeting presentation or an all-hands meeting. How satisfied were you with the rate of engagement there? So we're speaking about remote or online calls or events. Okay, so it's somewhere in the middle. The funny thing is that we've been running this polls for a few times now with different audiences, and no matter who is behind the screen, the score is hovering around 3.2 all the time. So it's really interesting that it seems the whole world can agree that, you know, there's much to improve. So hopefully in the next couple of slides, we'll be able to share with you some of those engagement tips. So over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Nadia. So first on our top tips is to be intentional about interaction. So one of the most crucial steps in engaging your audience actually takes place before the presentation is even live. You need to be intentional about making the time to prepare the interaction, because it doesn't happen on its own, especially with the way the world is at the minute. All these meetings are virtual. People are behind a screen. It's not the same as it was when we were meeting in real life. If you remember that actually being a thing at the start of the year, you can't read people's faces, you can't get that eye contact. So you really need to be intentional from the get-go. So here's our little top 3 tips. So first off, like we said, make the time to plan that interaction. Ensure that you have some time to prepare it in advance. And it's also important to say here that you should know where you're going to put it. So actually think about that. And throughout your presentation, find the key areas where you want to put maybe a poll, get an idea of what people are thinking, and actually boost that engagement and interaction. And the next 2 steps are really just practical. So you can prepare the list of your polls, what kind of thing you want to do. It can be something fun or something more insightful, and then insert the polls into your slides. So that's our first tip, and over to Nadia for the next one.
Thank you. So basically, Andrew was telling you what to do before you're live. So this is exactly what we've done before we actually made this webinar live. We were thinking like, what is it that we want to learn from you? What are the polls we want to have? So right now, as we're speaking with you, what's the important thing to understand? That we're asking you those questions, not only to think about those questions, but also to think about the answers, right? So we want to pull you into that conversation. Additionally, what we're doing with the live polls, we are creating mental breaks. So whenever we feel like, you know, we're talking for too long, we will insert a quick live poll just to make sure that you're still with us. And also what needs to be taken into the account is that we are creating a group experience. So not only we're engaging as you, like speakers versus the audience, we also want to connect you with each other. So the first tip, what we want to share with you, is use humor to break the ice. The screenshot that you can currently see is from an event that was happening way back in the spring when the first lockdown was about to happen. And the question was, are you wearing pens right now? Yes, define pens, and no. And this was a really popular icebreaker at the beginning of team calls or even webinars. And don't forget that the opening is equally important as the content itself. So adding an engagement bit right from the start set the tone and also creates the expectations that your audience should engage with you throughout the slides as well. There's a second tip, which is about understanding your audience. So right now I'm looking at an empty screen. Like I can't see your faces. I have no idea if you're with me or what are you thinking. So using live polls allows you to really collect the challenges of your audience, their expectations, learn more about their opinions. And what's great is that you can do it at scale and you can get everyone to express their voices. And our final tip is about making the content stick. So whenever you are presenting complex data, or you have a lot of information that you need to deliver, you can really make it fun and either run it like this. So this is one of my favorite examples from Cambridge University that was running a series of lectures about the space and galaxies, and they really wanted to make sure that the audience is following them. So you can either use a quick check, or you can also try our quiz feature, which creates also a bit of the competitive experience within your audience.
All right, thank you, Nadia. And tip number 3 concerns our Q&A. So turning your presentation into a conversation. And this comes back to what we discussed at the beginning. These virtual meetings, they shouldn't be just about you. It's not a one-way street. You want to include your audience and the community that you're engaging with. You can't meet with people by the water cooler or in the corridors and have those casual chats anymore. So it's more important than ever that we take this time to engage and actually have a dedicated Q&A time. So when you're planning your presentation, you can identify the opportunities and the best times for your audience to ask questions throughout. So, you can have certain dedicated time slots where you go back and forth to your Q&A if you want. If you feel like that might break the flow of your presentation, well, then you can just explain that you'll be taking questions at the end of the event for your Q&A section, and maybe encourage people to put in their questions throughout the presentation. That gives them time to think about what they want to ask and submit their questions. So to sum that up, here are top 3 tips. Basically, for a successful Q&A, you can collect questions in advance from people. So this could maybe even be before the presentation, or if you want to collect them during. And a top tip here is you can actually pre-seed or put in some of your own questions if you're worried that people might not have the courage to put them in themselves. And that really gets the ball rolling if you put in those dummy questions. Then you can give people 1 minute to think of the questions, even when you get to that dedicated Q&A time at the end. Take some time, don't be scared of an awkward silence. Let people look at the questions that have been submitted and have time to think about what they want to ask. And finally, this might seem obvious, but really make time for the Q&A. So have that dedicated time, make sure that people will be confident in putting in their questions and know exactly when you're going to address that. It really is important in this time. So this is the poll that we put in earlier. The most keen out of you will remember that when I was setting up the PowerPoint integration and showing you how it worked. So it's an open text poll, and we would love to know any tips from you. How do you engage your audiences? What can you share with us? What magical secrets can we steal from you? Okay, so someone has chat box there.
Q&A, Mentimeter, breakout rooms, videos, chat box, nice. Microsoft Teams.
Someone says sacrifice a lamb at the start. That's very interesting.
Asking for more questions. Miro, Kahoot, ask for their chats, emojis and GIFs.
Seeing some Slido shoutouts as well. Nice.
Icebreakers.
Breakout rooms. Nice. Kahoot. Great.
Perfect. Ask for questions. Q&A quiz. You can actually run a quiz with Slido as well, and you can add it to using any of these integrations. It's one of the poll types, so feel free to experiment with that if you feel like. Ask
everything in front.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for all the tips, and also Andrew and Nadia for sharing more from our side on how to get the most out of these integrations. And talking about the integrations, that's the main topic of today. And we are moving to the second star of tonight, which is the Microsoft Teams integration. And some of you are already asking questions about that, so we don't want to keep you waiting any further. And with that, let me give a word over to Martin, our product manager, who is going to walk us through the integration with Microsoft Teams. Martin, over to you.
Thanks, Uri. Hey, everyone. I'm Martin. I'm part of the team that's working on integrating Slido with virtual meetings tools. And one of those tools that you've been asking about for quite some time is Microsoft Teams. And it's been our goal to integrate with Microsoft Teams for a while. And last week, we finally launched the integration. So now it's publicly available to everyone. And the whole idea of this integration, just like with every other integration, is to put Slido next to the tool you are using. So you don't have to switch back and forth between apps or devices to interact with your colleagues or your audience. So let me share my screen and quickly walk you through how to set this up. I'm gonna share my screen with Microsoft Teams calendar. I hope you can see it now. Perfect. So this is the Microsoft Teams calendar, and I already have one of my weekly meetings set up. Even if you are using Microsoft Outlook to schedule meetings, you don't have to worry. There's a link which takes you to Teams calendar and pretty much shows you this exact screen. Once I open it, I already have a couple of people invited, and there's this little plus button on the top, which enables you to add third-party apps into your meeting. So you can see that there are a couple of apps that were launched last week. One of them is Slido, and these apps are optimized for the meetings use case. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Slido. This gives me a window that, perfect, I'm already logged in. So even if you are not logged in, you can use SSO, email, or even Google SSO to connect your accounts. So once I already do that, once you do that, you have the option to create a new event or select from existing events you created in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new event. I'm all set, perfect. And once I save it, you will see the traditional admin you are all used to directly in the Teams meeting. This is pretty much the way how we build this integration. We are using our existing web apps that you are used to, whether it's the admin or the participant view, and putting them into Microsoft Teams. So this is still the pre-meeting experience where I can create a poll. I can even start, turn on the moderation. And once I join, you will see Slido in the sidebar. So there's this little Slido icon on the top in the header, and this pretty much puts Slido directly into the Teams meeting window. So as a host, you are able to activate the polls directly from here. You don't have to switch to your browser or to your phone to activate polls. You don't have to moderate questions on any other device. Everything can be done directly in Microsoft Teams. So once I activate it, if I had some attendees, you will be seeing the results directly here. So the best thing about this integration is that only you as a host have to add Slido app to your meeting. When it comes to the attendees, let me share the attendee view now. When it comes to the attendees, once they join the Teams meeting, Slido is already there waiting for them in the sidebar. So for both of these roles, whether you're a host or attendee of a meeting, of a webinar, you don't have to go to a different device or open different tab or app in order to interact, to ask question or submit your vote in a poll. And this is the main value we are hoping to bring with this integration. There's one quick note. We noticed that some of our customers have not yet seen this Slido app in the App Store inside Microsoft Teams yet. And most likely the reason is that your organization has to whitelist it. So it usually takes 1 or 2 requests from or to your IT admins or someone who is the owner of Microsoft Teams in your organization to make this app available. So it's launched already, available to everyone, and we are super excited for you to give it a try and share your feedback. And in the meantime, I'm looking forward to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Perfect. And yep, I'm going to going to move on. Perfect. So again, thank you so much. And Martin, as you've just mentioned, we are moving gradually to the Q&A section of today's webinar, and we've got already 35 questions in. So what we want you to do right now, think about the question that you have, about anything that you heard today, whether it's more on the interaction tips side or something about these integrations. We have plenty of time to take your questions. If you don't have any question as such, like browse through the list and give an upvote to the question that you would like us to answer. So as I mentioned, we've got plenty of time. We're going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes addressing your questions. So now take a few seconds and we are going to wait till you can formulate the question and post it in, or just upvote the one that you might have. And we'll try to be comfortable with silence. That's what Andrew gave us a tip on, which is great. And we've got the numbers of questions actually rising already, 38, and we can display them, yep, over here. If we can just switch the view, Andrew.
Yeah, let me see if I can switch this to show all the top rated questions.
Perfect. So we've got 38 questions in.
It's not giving me the option. Let's do some troubleshooting.
Cool. Well, in the meantime, while Andrew is on it, let's take a look at the first question, which is pretty straightforward. Will you send out a copy of the slide deck? Of course, we're going to send and share with you the copy of the slide deck. And let's take on the next one, which is currently touches on the Zoom meetings integration. I would like to ask Martin the following question. So any updates on the Slido integration with Zoom meetings rather than Zoom webinars? Yeah,
thank you for this question. We are still working on the integration with Zoom meetings. So mid-October, we, together with Zoom, announced the upcoming Slido app or Zoom app. It's still in development. As soon as we have any update, we will definitely share, especially with those who sign up for the waitlist. If you haven't done that already, please do so at slido.com/Zoom.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Martin. Another Martin, welcome, welcome. This is the person who is behind the PowerPoint integration along with his team. This one is for you. Can the Slido poll slide have the PowerPoint theme that you are currently using?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's Martin here. Yes, so the placeholder slide that you add to your presentation can be modified, so you can set your own theme. It takes a little bit more work because you need to do it manually. And then the other slide that you see once you start presenting, so the live slide that shows you the results, that can be modified too. So you can go to settings, customization, and you can pick your own theme there or upload your own background, and that will be reflected in PowerPoint too. So yeah, those are the two options you have. In the future, we hope to automate this so you don't have to do this manually.
Great news for the future. Thank you, Martin. Let's combine it with the third question, or the second currently. What is the advantage of the PowerPoint Q&A feature over the Zoom webinar Q&A function? Martin, over to you again.
I'm wondering if this isn't the question for the other Martin, actually, because it mentions Zoom Q&A, yeah.
Both of you.
I can try to answer this. So I think in general, the main value of using Slido's Q&A with PowerPoint is that your attendees are able to ask questions in advance, and you have more control over what questions are coming in. There are other functions such as labeling and so on, but really the value is that you can prepare a meeting or your event in advance. You can share the link with your attendees and they can ask those questions, so you can shape your content or better prepare according to the questions you receive.
Great.
And I'll quickly add to that, if that's okay, Uri. So once you embed Slido into PowerPoint, it just comes up automatically on your screen and you don't have to do anything. And everyone can see the questions on your screen if you're sharing your screen. And it happens automatically, as I said. So that's also an advantage to the other Q&A that Zoom has.
Thank you so much, Martin. And I think this is a good question for you, Nadia. Let's bring you to the Q&A as well. So what's the most innovative use of Slido you have seen in a training, workshop, or a meeting?
Yes, so happy to take this one. So I'm going to share an example from a medical conference that was happening in the UK. So for those people joining from London and the UK, so the NHS was using Slido to, talk about coronavirus and all the bits and pieces around that. And to open the conversation, they asked a multiple choice question: do you think that COVID-19 was engineered? And I was really blown away by the fact that 14% of the people said they thought so. But why am I bringing it up is that I think the power of Slido is that you can really and truly even open the conversation with provocative topics and have meaningful conversation. Because if those doctors and nurses were sitting in the room and you would be like, by the show of hands, how many people think so? Those people wouldn't raise their hands. And I think it really enables such powerful conversation if you use the polls in the right way, and you can really get stuff out of people that you wouldn't be able to get in person. So there are many examples. One of the other ones that we actually do at Slido, we call it Silent Hero, and it works like this. Think of one colleague or one person that really helped you in the past month and submit their name into a Slido word cloud. And when this is happening, you can see the names of your colleagues popping up on the screen, and you can really acknowledge even the silent heroes that are working on the back end and making things work, such as our product guys today. And again, the examples are endless, but we do have a great blog. So we're really happy to share those resources with you, and you can get tips for engaging icebreakers or those powerful polls that I mentioned at the beginning to get inspiration for upcoming meetings and events.
Nadia, thank you so much. Definitely the Silent Hero word cloud poll is an all-time favorite. We run it every single month for our all hands meetings. Encourage you to do that as well, or a different variation. Obviously, live polls are very effective for engaging your students or trainees, and we see a lot of people actually doing that. So the question is, I work with middle and high school students who may not have two screens available. How do you suggest educating your audience about Slido prior to the event? Any volunteers, folks? I think this is a general question. Anybody who would like to take this one?
Yeah, I can speak up on this. I think it's an interesting question. It depends on the content you're sharing and maybe what presentation program that you're using. If they maybe don't have two screens available to switch between like a computer and another secondary device like a phone, maybe they can do it on both. So you can have your content and then they could switch over to Slido for those pieces of interaction when they're voting on polls or when they want to ask a question. Or if it's something that you're presenting for learning for your students and they maybe have their phones or their tablets that they can join a Slido event, maybe you can share your slides on a presentation screen and you can have Slido integrated into that with Google Slides integration or PowerPoint. And they can then vote as they come to the interaction slides that just pop up seamlessly on their phones, and they can put in their questions or maybe have a quiz if it's something educational. So I hope that helps even a little bit to kind of open that up for you. It's hard to know without more elaboration on the question, but that's my take on it.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. And we've got a question from Tessa asking, in a similar fashion. Can members of my audience who join with mobile devices participate in the Slido polling? Andrew, do you want to elaborate on this one?
Sure, I'll continue on the stream. Yeah, so when they're joining with their mobile phones, in terms of Slido, they just go to slido.com. They don't need to have the app downloaded or anything like that. Just go to the web browser and join with your event code. And there they can participate in the Slido polling as you activate your polls, whether that's doing that through Slido admin or if you have one of the integrations and you're activating it as you go through your slides.
Thank you, Andrew. And just to address the next one about the recording, yes, we will share the recording as well. And we can move to the next one. And this one is for Martin again, with the beard over here. I'll just try to read it verbatim. I have it I haven't shared slides. I have to share slides for my boss in the meeting, and we are using Slido. I now have it integrated on my computer, but will she be able to see the Slido slides when I share the PPT with them in advance of the meeting? In other words, will they have to have the integration downloaded too? A really good question. Rosie, over to you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes, so your boss, she will need to have the integration installed on her computer in her PowerPoint if you expect her to present the results too. If you just want her to see the Slido slides in an edit mode, then she doesn't need to do anything. The Slido slides will be there. But if you want her to present and collect responses and be kind of the presenter at the meeting, then yes, she needs to have the integration or the add-in installed.
Thank you. And Rosie, while you're talking, let's take the next one. Can you have a co-host in Slido?
Yes, that is absolutely possible. So you can, again, go to the web version, you can invite people to a particular session, and then that person can help you co-host or collaborate on the presentation. So it can be two of you actually presenting the same content and activate Slido polls in that presentation. And same is true if you're collaborating on a web version of Slido. So there can be multiple people collaborating on the same content in Slido.
Cool. And since you're still with us, I think let's just use your time over here. Can Slido be used in Keynote?
It can. We don't have a native integration with Keynote. It's something that we kind of know it's on our radar. We know people use Keynote. We don't have anything yet. It's not on the roadmap. But we have different ways to use Slido with Keynote. As Andrew pointed out earlier, we have Switcher, which is an app that allows you to use Slido alongside your presentation in Keynote. And then you also have more traditional ways to use Slido with Keynote by kind of switching applications manually or sharing different screens while presenting.
Thank you so much. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the next one. My company is moving to G Suite. What can you do for us? Martin, do you want to take this one as well, or shall we ping it to another Martin?
No, I can take this one. That's fine. So the integration we currently have, when I look at all the Google apps, the one that we've launched, and that's there, it's the Google Slides integration, the add-on that you can find on the Google Workplace Marketplace. That's the one we have. So you can use Slido in Google Slides in a very similar fashion that you saw with PowerPoint. And then we also have a Google Meet integration, which is currently in early beta. It's not publicly available, but if you're interested, you can let us know. You can contact us and we can see what's available for testing right now. If you're moving to G Suite and you want to use Slido, or we do have documentation and we can help you kind of make this transition, you can install the Slido add-on for Google Slides on a domain level. And then we have another kind of extension for the Chrome browser that makes the experience even better. And that can be also installed on a domain level. So we have tools to help you manage that kind of over the board. However, that's only for Google Slides right now. So if you need more information, feel free to let us know. We can walk you through.
Martin, thank you so much. And let's take a look at the question for another Martin. Has been quiet for a while. Will the Teams integration eventually be able to be added per meeting instead of being added to a team?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It is actually possible to add the Teams integration per meeting. So as you might have known, this Slido for Teams integration has been there for a while, and the functionality was basically that you were able to add Slido inside a Teams channel. But right now, what we are bringing is the new integration, which enables adding Slido into Teams meeting directly. So once you are in the meeting with your colleagues or with your audience, everyone is seeing Slido in the sidebar, and there is no need to switch back and forth between tabs or devices anymore.
Thank you so much, Martin. And we've got two related questions. And I would like to ping this one to Nadia again. What is the best practice on moderation of questions? We don't want to censor views and opinions, but also don't want to offend people with thorny questions.
Mm-hmm. So this is actually a great one, right? And it really depends on the use case. Like, is it an external webinar or is it an internal team meeting? So those are sort of like two different stuff. But what we actually advise is to set the expectations correctly and mention that, you know, this is the topic of the conversation that you're focusing on. So you will be taking questions that are related to the topic. This works both internally and externally. And additionally, there's an option in Slido called private replies. So if you don't feel like approving a certain question, but you still want to get to that person and explain it privately, you can use the reply feature and get to that person on one-on-one level. So that works. And again, I'm just gonna discuss the blog with you. So we have written an article, especially on this topic. So if you're curious to learn more about this, like how to answer those questions, feel free to check out the blog where you will learn all the tips. And as for the second question, where are the Slido questions stored? So if you're owning the Slido session, you're the owner of the data, you can always go back and see all the questions in the analytics, unless you choose to delete them. So it is up to you, but nobody else gets to see the data, only you as the owner of the Slido event. Hope that. Yeah, and just looking at the questions, we have 40 questions in and the time is short. So please really make sure that you review all the questions that are in and upvote the ones that you want us to answer. So we get to the top ones.
Absolutely. And we're going to take, let's say, 3, 4, 5 question tops, and then we're going to call it a day and wrap it up gradually. So as Nadia said, make sure that you upload the one that you want to hear answered. And let's just round it up to 3. There is the second question now. The first question: can the presenter hide certain Q&A questions from the view? Nadia, yeah.
Yes, so yes, there's a feature called moderation, and with that you can very easily approve or dismiss each incoming question.
Cool, thank you. Andrew, what about you? Let's give you the next one. I see your event is named Engage. Is that a feature to rename our events from a generic number to is that a feature to rename our events from a generic number to a useful name?
Thanks, Juraj. Thanks for your question. It is, in fact, a feature of ours. So whether you have a basic plan or a paid plan with Slido, you can change your event code. With the basic plans, it will give you some generic numbers when you first generate your event. But all you need to do to change that is go into your general settings in your Slido admin of that event, and you can change it to any sort of word, something snappy that's relevant to your presentation or your meeting. And as long as it's available at that time and no one else has used the word or the phrase, then you're good to go.
Andrew, one more for you. How can you organize all the questions if you want to address different topics throughout the presentation? That's exactly what we've been doing today, right?
Right, yeah. So there are a couple of ways in which you can do this in Slido. Of course, we've talked about the moderation where you can improve or dismiss the right questions. If you want to organize your questions into different topics, you can actually label them. So you can create different labels for your Q&A session. And as they come in, maybe they're for your exec team or your CEO, and you can label those appropriately onto those questions. And then you can actually filter those so that in the Slido admin and on the present mode, like you see here, you'll see only certain labeled questions. There's also a way in which you can star questions if you want to do that, and then you can show the starred questions. And finally, with some of our paid plans, you can get the multiple rooms option, and you can actually divide your event into different rooms, which could have different topics for the Q&A.
Thank you, Andrew. Another question for Martin. When will Mac users be able to use Slido with PowerPoint?
Before I answer, I just want to say I really appreciate the question. I can really appreciate it because I'm a Mac user myself. Unfortunately, we don't have a timeline yet for this one. Developing the Windows version has been fun, but has been difficult, and adding another platform to it could be challenging for us. So we want to make sure we nail this one perfectly. It's still in beta. And once we go out of beta, we'll start looking into different ways, or actually to different platforms and how we can help those two. So that's it for now, yeah.
Again, another one for you, Martin. What is the level of security of the slides being presented?
If you're asking if we download your content, no, we don't do that. With PowerPoint, we can't even see what your slides have on them. we don't read the content. So you're perfectly fine and secure.
Cool. I think there's a typo in there, and I guess we addressed this one, but we can reiterate the message. When will Zoom be integrated with Slido? Martin, you want to reiterate the message?
Sure. So we are working on an integration with Zoom meetings, as we announced in October. It's still in development, and as soon as we have an update, we'll definitely share with everyone. In the meantime, as I mentioned, please do sign up for that waitlist at slido.com/Zoom.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And let's take two more and then call it a night or call it a day, depending on where you are. This is a technical one. Is it the owner and seats within an account the only ones allowed to use this function, or can others within the team create and manage this? I believe it's the integrations in general, but let's touch on the Microsoft Teams first, and then let's take a look at the PowerPoints. Martin, Sarah, do you want to start?
Sure. Let me just quickly read a question again. Yes. So at the moment, you need to have Slido user seat, or you need to have a Slido account in order to use or manage Slido within Teams. Obviously, when it comes to the participants or the attendees, they don't have to have a Slido account. It is same as with our standard application. We do have the basic package, which is for free. So I think it's super easy to give it a try, even if you don't have an account yet.
Mm-hmm. How does it work with PowerPoint integration, Martin? You want to share your thoughts on that?
I think we mentioned this point before. Let me just reiterate. You can invite people to your Slido session in PowerPoint, and those people can contribute. So you can have one master file that other people can access through cloud, and you can all collaborate and add polls to that presentation. So that feature is supported here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's really take the last one. And I would like to give a word just to wrap it up to Nadia. How do you share Slido and PowerPoint control on Zoom across several speakers like you are doing on this session right now? So let's wrap it up, with the insights from the kitchen, so to speak.
Yes. So what we did is that we created the slides in a PowerPoint deck to show you the integration. So my colleague Andrew, he is sharing his screen with all the PowerPoints, and the live polls and the Q&A are sitting within that presentation. So it's really just one slide deck with all the engagement in there, and we're simply sharing the screen. And that's really it. So yeah. Nothing more than that and nothing less than that. And just to wrap it up, I, of course, understand it was a lot of information. We will definitely share the slides and the recording with you, as well as resources on how to get all of these bits and how to install it. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can always reach out either through live chat or at support@slido.com. So we'll be there for you, even after the webinar.
Nadia, thank you so much for wrapping it up, and thank you all for your questions. There's been really, really plenty. And as Nadia said, feel free to reach out to us for any details. And with that, let me thank you all for joining us today and tonight. And hopefully you learned more about using Slido and about how to engage your participants, and also about the integrations that are really fresh out of the oven. And we are at the end of our journey, and you know what happens with the Uber rides, right? So the moment you step out of the car, you are just going to get a pop-up asking you for a rating, and we would like you to do exactly the same. So if you go to the polls right now, the feedback is already active. Very simple, just 2 questions. How did you like this webinar tonight or today? And any comments or suggestions for us as presenters. We always try to make these sessions more valuable and more interesting for our users or for people who don't know Slido yet. So as I said, we are at the end of our ride for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We had almost over 200 people tonight with us, which is amazing. Thank you so much for finding the time. And before we really part, please leave your feedback for us and fill in the comment section section for any good, bad, or ugly things. We want to hear that from you. Thank you so much, and that's all from our side. And if we have one more slide, let's just move on. Thank you. Some of you, we talked about the blog on this slide. You can see the blog slido.com is where you can find a lot of tips that we discussed today, or in general about the integrations. Just go to slido.com integration section, and you can find all what we discussed today, or just let us know, as Nadia said, at support@slido.com. And with that, I want to thank also all our speakers who participated today, and also all those who helped us manage Slido in the backstage, and all of you for your time. Thank you so much, and have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.